Hello everyone, I want to take you on a tour of my mostly native plant front yard gardens. A lot of people avoid using natives in their front yard because it could look messy, but it doesn't always have to be the case. I have been working on my front garden beds for a couple of years now and trying to get the right balance of native plants that look decent enough for the front yard. Things are starting to come together, so let me go ahead and show you. Okay guys, so first I want to start with this section of my front yard garden. This is right next to my garage. I have like a side loading garage. So what I've done here is I am trying to build this ground cover up. It's green and gold, and I wanted to fill in this entire area so that there's no need for mulch and it turns into a very low maintenance situation. You will probably notice some sedges within this green and gold. I used to have this bed lined all the way around with Carex amphibola, which I love, but I have decided since then that I prefer the green and gold over the Carex amphibola for lining this bed. There are a couple reasons for that. The green and gold provide a little bit more weed suppression, and I don't want to have everything lined the same exact way. Okay, so then behind my green and gold, I have clethra, and this is a variety called, I think it's called 12 candles or white candles, something like that. It's just starting to bloom with these beautiful white blooms. The pollinators love this plant. Once this plant gets going on, if you have this plant in your landscape, it is like the last thing that starts to leaf out. So do not be alarmed if you get this plant and then the next season you think it's dead. It's not dead. So anyways, I have 3 of them planted here. 1, 2, 3. That, if you happen to notice, those leaves are of, I believe, a red chokeberry that was self-seeded there. I'm waiting until the fall to move that somewhere else. And then behind the clethra, I have a Carex. It's called Carex springali, and I have that circling this crepe myrtle bush. And Carex springali is actually not native to Northern Virginia, but it is native a little north of here, I think Pennsylvania. And I'm not sure if you can see it. I'll come around here. But I also have a coral honeysuckle, which I'm trying to grow up the crepe myrtle. So anyway, this is here inside this particular bed. Here is Japanese stilt grass, which is very invasive here. And I've been pulling it out for a couple years now. I really have put a huge dent in it, but yeah, got to keep on top of it. Okay, so then next to the clethra, I have Fothergia, and these have just beautiful blooms in the very early spring. I put these in last year and they're filling out really nicely. So the clethra and the Fothergia, those are both varieties. They're not the straight species, but the pollinators still love them, and to be able to have something close to native in the front yard and look good, that's what I need. In between each of the Fothergia, I have a Maryland holly, and the Maryland holly is not going to get tall. The tallest it'll get is 3 feet, but it will eventually one day fill in this whole area between the Fothergias. Down here is some more Carex amphibola. I will probably move that. But then we have some Brunnera on this corner. Here's the Maryland holly. So there's 3 Fothergias here. Okay, more of the green and gold. I had some Brunnera here. I transplanted it. I don't think it survived, so I'll probably get some more for right there. And then I have a Brunnera back there by the water barrel, just so that I can have like a grouping of 3. This right here is just a single species of Southern Gentleman Winterberry. So I'll have this all filled in with the Brunnera, and then have the green and gold migrating around too. You probably see a lot of seeded Carex amphibola. Those will get moved around eventually. So on the other side of my path, down here I have Siberian irises, which are just so beautiful but only last a little bit. And then I have some fox sedge around, and that goes around this grouping right here. And then in here I have cardinal flower, which is blooming. And then we have some Hypericum punctatum, which is spotted St. John's wort. And then in the very middle, you can see it's had a little bit of deer browse and Japanese beetle damage, but there are red twig dogwoods in there. And then I had dug this out because this area right here was flooding, so I dug that out and put a bunch of stones in there. I need to clean it up, add more stones, but I'll get to that in the fall when it's cooler. So the fox sedge. And then here in this section of the bed right here looks a little messy, but that's okay. But it is full of Carex amphibola, and it is the aromatic aster. So these will start blooming in the late summer, beautiful purple blooms. And so what I envision here eventually is for this whole area to be ground cover of Carex amphibola with these aromatic aster stems poking out. So that'll happen in the future. Then here is a sea of Japanese Pachysandra, and if you've been with me, you know that eventually I'm going to hire somebody to take that out. I do want to put an Appalachian Springs dogwood in the middle there. My husband and I are planning to put one in there to celebrate our marriage. We just haven't got around to it yet. Here I have a bank of non-native azaleas, and I'll show you what I'm doing with them. I had a friend, Nicola, who showed me that you can pretty much cut azaleas back all the way, and then they will get really nice and flush out like this one, as opposed to these big tall ones which have a lot of bare spots in the middle. So slowly what I'm doing is I'm cutting these all the way back. This one I cut back last year, and now it's all filled in. And so I'm gonna have my husband probably go around back and do some of the back, cut them all the way back down, and slowly bring this like massive azaleas down a little bit. It's a little too overwhelming for me where it is there. Behind there's like this planter bed, and the non-native bleeding hearts bloom every year in there. And the other weekend I did a project where I put in a bunch of aromatic asters in there because it doesn't barely get any rain because of this overhang. And those can take, the aromatic asters can take that dry condition. So hopefully we can get some blooms later in the summer with that. And then eventually these azaleas will be down a little bit more manageable. Okay, coming down the path, we have more green and gold here. Behind the green and gold, I have golden ragwort, which is filling in nicely. And then in the middle here, I have inkberry. I believe that's a shamrock inkberry. Okay, I'll go to this side first. This is steeplebush, and I just absolutely love this steeplebush. Here's a bloom. It's pink and it's beautiful, and it's just a beautiful native to have here. It takes sun and it takes a lot of moisture. It can do wet environments, and this area is very wet. So what I'm going to do to encourage bushiness is in the late winter, I'm going to pretty much cut these all the way back. These are pretty new plants. I grew them from seed just like a year or two ago. So they look a little teeny leggy right now. In real life, they don't look as leggy, but yeah, that's what I plan to do. And then in front of it, I have some self-seeded Carex blanda. I may move that around the landscape And then in front of that, I have purple lovegrass and some downy wood mint. Here's my purple lovegrass. I moved all my purple lovegrass, and this is like one of the last sections that I kept because I was thinking that it was really dry here and it might do better. I don't know. I mean, and I'm saying like this area is really moist, but that very, very front area seemed to get dry. I may just remove it all. But anyway, here's the downy wood mint, and then here's the self-seeded Carex blanda that may be moved around the landscape. Behind that, I have more of the purple lovegrass, which again usually likes a dry condition, but it seems to do just fine right here in this moist condition. And I have it interplanted with marsh marigold, which may sound really weird because of the environments that they prefer, but seem to be doing well right now. More Carex amphibola. This is my Hypericum prolificum shrubby St. John's wort bush, which has just the beautiful yellow blooms. I have another one right here that the pollinators just adore. So do the Japanese beetles. So I think I put something up on social media recently talking about the fact that Japanese beetles really love the Hypericum prolificum, but they don't really do much damage. So it's almost like a, what's it called, a catch crop, keeping them away from other of my plants. And then in front of the Hypericum prolificums here, I have it's called a lemon 9-bark. Anyways, it's a dwarf 9-bark. And around it, there are some sprouts of switchgrass, which I had moved. I thought I had moved, but they sprouted. I may take those out, move them around the landscape, and replace those with prairie dropseed. Okay, let me back up here. Now I'm up on my porch looking out, and then this is a rhododendron. I have two of them, like one on either side, one right there. One is like Little Prince and the other is Little Princess. It's not native. And what I've been doing is I've been popping in ginger all over the place in this shady area. This goes from like pretty much mostly sun to mostly shade, like a pretty defined line. So where I have most of the shade, I put in a lot of native ginger. So I'm hoping over the years that it will form a mat. And again, just like the green and gold, take over, living mulch, you know, not having to deal with putting mulch down. So that's what I'd like to see in the future. Right here, I have Virginia Sweetspire, Little Henry. And this gets really beautiful blooms in the spring, the early summer, and then you cut it back right after it blooms. So these have had their cut back, and they should be really pretty in the fall. Let me come around front here. There's some things that I planted over here that I want to show you. This is it from the front. Here's the Little Lemon 9-bark. I have some hardy geraniums, Roseanne, some more Brunnera here, right in front of the Little 9-bark. That's where I want to put a prairie dropseed, and right there, I'm moving those, what are they, switchgrass somewhere else. And then here is more switchgrass, which I transplanted there, and I have that intermixed with our native hibiscus, rose mallow, and it looks like I have a couple blooms starting right there. Then behind that, I have more of the non-native azaleas, and then cherry laurel, which I think this cherry laurel has a disease because I keep having to cut it back more and more every year. So anyway, that's the front. I'm not going to go to the side. I'll save that for another day. I also have some Bowman's root up here that I actually may use instead of the purple lovegrass. We'll just see. Now to the other side of the front porch, walking up here, I had a bunch of sensitive fern up here and it was just taking over. So I cut that all back because I'm moving all of that sensitive fern to the back, and I just wanted that to be out of there for the video. But oh, I can show you this. So these two non-native azaleas, I cut those back last year, and you can see how they flushed up with all that green. This one I did this year, so you can see what it'll look like in just a year. And then I'm gonna have my husband come back here and cut some of those back so that they can do the same. So in here, what I have done is I have planted a patch of Heuchera americana. And then this right here is a white Avens. Sometimes the leaves look so similar to the Heuchera. I thought that's what it was. It wasn't. So I need to move that. But anyway, here's a patch of Heuchera americana. And then I'm gonna have to figure out something here where I'm taking out the sensitive fern that makes sense. It's gonna have to be small and manageable, you know, front yard like. Definitely will be a native. Right here I have 3 dwarf winterberries. I've been able to keep the deer off of them, and you can see the berries that the birds will just really enjoy in the late winter. This bed is lined with Carex amphibola. And then behind the Carex amphibola, I have a line of Meadow Beauty or Handsome Harry, just now starting to bloom. And then behind the row of Meadow Beauty, I have Cardinal Flower, and these are just at their peak and just looking beautiful. A little taller than what I'd like, so I might do more of a Chelsea chop on them next year. I did not Chelsea chop them this year. The only problem with that is this area looks so good the 4th of July because the cardinal flowers are blooming. Now if I Chelsea chop them, it's going to delay the blooming, so that's something I'm going to have to think of. I have some nodding onion in here on either side of, well, I have some nodding onion here. Now these are young plants, so they probably aren't going to bloom this year. Most of this I've all grown from seed. Here's some more right there. And then here is another patch. Now this patch looks like it might get some blooms, and that might be because I don't think they were older plants, but maybe because they get more sun, they've matured faster. But anyway, that'll look really nice someday with the nodding onion sprouting out. So we'll have like the red and the white all at the same time. Yeah, the cardinal flower is a little large for the front yard landscaping, but it's kind of just a statement piece right now, and I think it looks really nice because everything else is pretty formal. So I'll cut those all the way back down to the ground when they're done blooming. I'll leave just a couple up so that I can collect the seed. Okay, now if I come around the side, here's that little princess or little prince rhododendron. Here's the landscape from looking from behind. Those were there when people were painting the house. I got to get those out of there. But you can see more of the native ginger here, which I hope is a mat. Starts forming that mat all through here. I've seen it, pictures online of that, and it just looks so nice. So anyway, that'll probably go through up there. And then in front of that, there are the 3 dwarf winterberries. Okay, and then so in front of the ginger, I have 3 little gem inkberries. Now they're not supposed to get leggy. However, this one right here is kind of a little leggy. I don't know what I can do about that. I don't know. We'll see. I might try some things. But anyway, there's a cardinal flower again doing its thing. And it actually, you know what, it does look really nice from the street, and it does look like it's intentional and not messy. So I think that's because the overhang protects it from the rain and it flopping over. Then, you know, when it's done blooming, I'll cut it all the way back, and then we'll have, you know, a little bit more formal look. And here are the non-native azaleas. So there are definitely a couple spots that I can do some things with, but this area is pretty much done, and I'm really excited about the way it's looking, considering almost everything I have replaced with natives or dwarf type natives. Okay guys, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for sticking around with me and taking this tour of my front yard garden beds. I'm really looking forward to these garden beds starting to fill in over the next year or so and just being a habitat for my native plants, but at the same time having a little bit of formality to them so that, you know, they're good for the front yard. Natives don't have to just go to the backyard. Although, you know, I say this and then I'm going to watch the video, and sometimes my videos, things don't look as nice and tidy and clean as they do in real life. So we'll just see what happens there. Anyway, guys, thanks again, and I will catch you again next time.